He classified all the living organisms in the earth into five kingdoms. That is, he classified under five kingdoms. They are Monera, Protista, Fungi, Plantae, Animalia. You may heard of them. But he missed a few organisms. They are viruses, virites, prions, and lichens. Let's see few things about them. These are the topics. Every examination they will at least ask one question from this topic. So you have to learn thoroughly with this topic. Read NCERT for better understanding. And also I will upload this class notes in the description. The link is given in the description. So upload. So download it and for better understanding read. So virions, viruses, virites, and prions, kind of similar pronunciation, but how to differentiate it? So the main difference between virions and viruses is where they are placing. For example, virions, if they are present outside the host cell, they are non-living, kind of metabolically inactive. So they are called virions. When viruses present outside the extracellularly outside the host cell, it is called virions. When these virions infect a living cell, that is a healthy cell, it becomes metabolically active and it seems like living organisms. So they are called viruses. So inside the living organism, living cell, these organisms are referred as viruses intracellularly, and extracellularly it referred as virions. So they are the same organisms which referred as different names under different circumstances. Then virions are nothing but viruses that lacks the protein code. They are free RNA or free DNA, which are very infectious because they are the free RNA DNA without the protein code of viruses, so they should be infectious. And virites are smaller than the viruses. Prions are also smaller than the viruses. Prions are nothing but an abnormally folded protein. They are transmitting agents which transmit diseases from viruses to the healthy humans, animals, or plants. So prions are abnormally folded proteins smaller than the viruses. Then viruses are acellular, non-cellular organisms. They are inert outside the living organisms. They can be crystallized and the crystals are made of proteins. Viruses are smaller than a cell but bigger than a organelle. That's only they are living as intracellular organisms. In intracellular, they derive energy from the mitochondria, chloroplast, and other cell organelles and use them for the replication. So they replicates intracellularly and releases their progeny outside of the cell. So the intracellular organisms. That's why virions intracellular present means they are called as viruses. Pasteur named them as viruses, which means venom or poisonous fluid. Dmitry Yanovsky, he observed the mosaic disease in tobacco. When he observed the fluid collecting from the extracted from that mosaic disease, the infected leaf, he observed the disease is due to some microorganisms, but these microorganisms are not filtered by the bacterial proof filter. So he concluded that these viruses, that is the microorganisms responsible for the disease, should be smaller than the bacteria. Then only they are filtered out of the bacterial proof filter. So he confirmed that it may be viruses. Then M.W. Beijerinck, he extracted that fluid from the tobacco mosaic plant and named them as Contagium vivum fluidum, because when he spilled that fluid into a healthy tobacco plant, it becomes infected. The plant becomes infected. So it means it is a infectious living fluid that is called as Contagium vivum fluidum. W. Beijerinck named viruses as Contagium vivum fluidum. Questions will be asked based on these authors and what they named the viruses. Then W.M. Stanley, he named them as obligate parasites. He observed that they are non-living outside the host and inert, crystallized, and so on. And when they enter the host, they become active, metabolically active and living. So he named them as obligate parasites. Questions will be asked based on these authors and their names given. Then viruses contain either RNA or DNA as a genetic material. No viruses contain both DNA and RNA. Plant viruses means viruses that infect plant contain single-stranded RNA, and bacterial viruses, that is viruses which infect bacteria. Example, bacteriophage, it contains double-stranded DNA. Then animal viruses which infect animals as well as human beings contains either single-stranded RNA or double-stranded RNA or double-stranded DNA. So here is the typical structure of a virus. So here you can see the genetic material inside the capsid. It may be DNA or RNA genes. This capsid is made up of small subunits called capsomeres, monomers or subunits, whatever they are. Capsomeres, they are made up of proteins and they are shaped as different polyhedral, octahedral. That's why they are called as icosahedral, and for different families they are different shapes. Then the envelope is the outermost covering of all of this, and the envelope is embedded with proteins. These proteins are maybe glycoproteins. You may hear of glycoproteins present in the HIV virus. Vaccines are produced based on these protein structures. So in coronavirus topic also, scientists in Oxford University are using this proteins, glycoproteins, as an antigen. They replicated these antigens. That is, the antigen means something that is foreign to the human body or human body, because we are the most dominant species in the world. So they are creating vaccines for us. So that antigen, if we created that antigen and put it in some molecule and we immunized or we injected it into our human body, that vaccine will act as a inducer of immune system. So our immune cells will detect the antigen, that is the glycoprotein present in the coronavirus, and if it is replicated, and without that virus only the antigen is incorporated into a molecule and it is injected into the human cell, then our immune cells will be exaggerated when if the actual coronavirus infection takes place. This is the secondary immune system infection, secondary immune response. This will be dealt in some another topic, another class we will see about the immune system. So coming to viral diseases, virus can cause disease in plants, animals and human beings. In humans it causes mumps, herpes, smallpox and influenza. In plants it causes tobacco mosaic disease as we saw earlier, and leaf rolling and curling disease in many plants, that is the curling of leaves, and dwarfism in plants, and yellowing of leaves in tender leaves, not nitrogen deficiency. Then coming to viroids. Viroids are nothing but viruses that lacks the protein code. So they are free RNA or DNA, which is infectious in nature. So it causes spindle tuber disease in potato. This is how it looks, spindle tuber disease in potato. Then coming to prions. Prions are nothing but abnormally folded protein. It is a transmitting agent for some neurological diseases. Example, bovine spongiform encephalopathy, commonly called mad cow disease in cattle, and its analog in humans as Jacob disease. Then coming to lichens. So lichens are wow, it's good. Lichens are good pollution indicators. So this is a common question asked in every entrance exam. AIIMS JIPMA. This is a favorite question. Lichens are good pollution indicators. They do not grow in industrially polluted areas. They are very slow growing organisms. Lichens are actually a symbiotic association between an algae and a fungi, but it's hard to distinguish them. It seems like a single organism. Lichens are made of algae and fungi. Scientists discovered that in Arctic regions, some lichens are about 4,500 years old, and due to climate changes, you may heard of the Paris climate deal and all. Due to climate changes nowadays, these lichens and some other algae, they are growing in the Antarctic region. They are creating new ecosystems. They absorb more CO2, some 8 lakh vehicles emitting CO2 in the UK, which is absorbed by the Antarctic region. They are calculated like some kind of things. So it's good. Algae are adapted to the new environment, new climate change, and in Antarctic regions they are growing and creating a many microflora. Now recently the scientists measured all those biomes and all. So coming to the topic, lichens consist of two components, phycobiont and mycobiont. Phycobiont is an algal component which is autotrophic in nature, that is they synthesis starch with the help of chlorophyll pigment by process photosynthesis, whereas the mycobiont is the fungal component, which is heterotrophic in nature, which absorbs nutrients from the soil and give it to the phycobiont for photosynthesis, that is the algal component. The algal component provides him back the starch synthesis. So they are very close association, that is symbiotic association or mutualism. And we know that very good pollution indicators, lichens is a very good pollution indicators. They do not grow in industrially polluted areas. The common question asked in entrance examination. These are the some specialized structures in lichens. So this is the thallus, a structure of thallus. This is the whole thallus, and this is the upper surface of the thallus. It is the lower surface of the thallus. It is folded over the top. So this upper surface of the thallus contains apothecium, which is a fruiting body, and soridia, which is the powderous clusters or powderous mass containing both algal and fungal component. Then isidia, this is the outgrowths from the upper surface of the thallus, may be branched or unbranched, which helps in photosynthesis and vegetative propagation. Coming to the lower surface of the thallus, this is rhizomes. Rhizomes means the roots of hyphae, which absorbs nutrients from the soil and give it to the algae for photosynthesis. And cephalae, this cephalae is responsible for exchange of gases. These are depressions on the undersurface of the thallus, helps in exchange of gases. Then another notable organism is mycorrhiza. This is also a symbiotic association, that is a mutualistic organism between a fungus and roots of higher plants, that is pine, eucalyptus and ficus. The term vesicular arbuscular mycorrhiza means the hyphae develop both vesicles and arbuscles within the root cortical cells. Mycorrhiza may be present as ectomycorrhiza or endomycorrhiza. Endo means inside the root cells, ecto means outside. Its main function is to increase the uptake of nutrients by the plants. It makes that it converts the unavailable phosphorus into available phosphorus, so that the plant can easily absorb phosphorus. And it also helps in other nutrient absorption also, for example nitrogen, potassium, copper and zinc. It also helps in the host plants to absorb efficiently more amount of water. Here you can see the pinus plant, and these are the root nodules. This is mycorrhiza root nodules. So you can see the mycorrhiza root nodules. These are the mycorrhiza root nodules. The symbiotic association function is to increase the uptake of nutrients in the soil. So that's all for today. So if you have any doubt, queries, and if you want to learn with us, there is a link in the description. Submit your feedback, and the class notes is in the link in the description, the PDF class notes. You can download it and go through it for better understanding.